Hi guys, my name is Maria Screti and I will be your instructor for this week. The topic I would like to introduce you is the story of a business idea. What are its challenges, what are the successes and the mistakes that often comes with it. Behind me, as you can see, there is the beautiful Duomo of Florence, which is one of the symbols of our city. They started building this church at the end of the 13th century and it took over 100 years to be completed. Of course, during this time, not everything was easy and the construction work was interrupted many times. So it is for a business idea. It takes time, effort, consistency, perseverance, and of course many failures to get its realization. But if the idea is good, if you believe in yourself and if you know how to learn from your mistakes, then the result cannot be anything else rather than excellent. So when it was completed, this church was the biggest one in the entire world. Now, today I am the pleasure to introduce you a friend, but above all an entrepreneur. Her name is Annalisa Ferrari. Today Annalisa will tell us her story, and as from an idea she created a business. What were her challenges, her successes, her mistakes, and what are her plans for the future?
Hello everybody, I'm Annalisa and I'm from Florence, Italy, where we're sitting today having a coffee near the Duomo. Life took me to Sydney and I spent 14 years living and working in Sydney. My original job is as a psychotherapist and as a coach. I loved my job, but I felt very far from home, so I had to find a way to get back here. I've always had a huge passion for food and wine, and so I devised a high-end food tour for women. I did this tour so that I could come home, use the excuse to see my friends and family, and also work with the people I know here in Florence and are also my friends in this industry. The tours were very successful and lots of fun and passion driven. I went back to Sydney, but I had 2 very small children. So it was not possible for me to expand the business to more than twice a year for me to come to Italy and be away from my kids. The passion did not subside, and while I worked as a psychotherapist and coach, I also threw big dinners and lunches at my house, and soon I got a reputation for the one who cooks, the one who has the recipes, the one whose house to go to be filled with the spirit of Italy. Soon I was asked to do some catering events, and so for fun I decided to do this. Before I knew it, this was another business in and of itself, and people were asking me how to make pasta, gnocchi, how to put a menu together, how to put a buffet together. So I decided to start cooking classes, and I did this from my home kitchen. This allowed me to continue working as a psychotherapist, have my catering and cooking class, all while minding my small children. I had to take a leap, and this passion of mine had to either stay a small job and a side job, or it had to take center stage. And to do that, I had to make a big decision. And I had to decide, are you gonna be an entrepreneur? Are you gonna make this a business? Once I decided, the decision was made. And the next thing I knew was a business plan was being put into place and I was looking for a business partner. Today, I'm here to tell you my journey of how a Ferrari Kitchen, which is the name of my business, came to be an actual cooking school, a weekend restaurant, and a bakery, including my tours to Florence, Italy. I will talk to you about my challenges and mostly about the huge mistakes that I made, some of which are completely inevitable because once you go into business, you also go into life, and it's unavoidable if you're gonna live large to not make mistakes. It is how and the way you approach those mistakes that get you through what you're doing, and that's what we'll talk about today. I also hope that for some of you, my mistakes, maybe you won't have to repeat the same ones. You'll find new ones. So I hope my journey helps you decide whether or not you are an entrepreneur and whether or not you are ready to take the leap into the journey that is your own business. So at this point, you might be asking yourself, how did I finance my project? So once I decided that I wanted to open this location, which initially was designed as a cooking school, where I would do cooking classes for schools, for private families, for anyone who wanted to come, and also corporate coaching classes, because I use my background as a psychotherapist and a coach to integrate all of that in team building experiences. So that was my main goal. And together with that, a bakery where I would start baking a bread called schiacciata, which was inexistent in Sydney. And it is a special focaccia bread that we make here in Florence. That was my initial plan. I put together a very basic business plan because business planning is not my forte. So this is where I tell you that one of my greatest qualities is my enthusiasm and the fact that I face my fears. This is also a big problem because I go into things before I am ready. This can be good, this can be bad. So if you recognize this in yourself, keep notice. I had to find a business investor, so I went ahead and told everyone I knew what I was doing. I had my business plan ready and I'd done my market research at the best that I could. And then I had me and my enthusiasm and my love and passion for my project. I had to do this. At that point, I was divorced. I really had to pump up my business to take care of my children, and I'd made this decision. I couldn't do more tours, although they were working in Florence, because I couldn't be away from these kids. So I decided I would do this. I eventually found a business partner. The way I found him was by talking to everybody. And finally, I was introduced to some chefs and I was introduced to other restaurant owners. This man was a restaurant owner, so I thought he knew what he was doing and it would be good for me. He offered to buy 20% of my business, which was a big decision. But in the deal, I stipulated that in that 20%, he also had to give 20% of his time. And I wasn't sure exactly, I knew I was right, but I wasn't sure exactly how to verbalize that. And so it was not verbalized well enough in our contract. Keep listening to this bit. So we decided to go into business together, and I can tell you that what I did was I relinquished all the finances and all the things, the taxes, what it meant to pay staff. I relinquished all of that to him instead of learning it. And what he did was he didn't come and learn what it meant to be in the restaurant, at this point still a cooking school. So he had no idea how much time it took to do the cooking classes, bake the bread at 2:45 in the morning, and do a 15-hour day. What we should have done was educate each other better on each part of the business. And this brings true partnership and much better entrepreneurship, because when you have a business, you need to understand all of the sides of the business. Delegation is super important. You cannot do everything if you want to have a business, but knowing and understanding every bit of it is absolutely fundamental. And here I made a big mistake. And what happened was I didn't get as many hours in return from my business partner that he should have been putting in regularly. So at the beginning, I was pulling between 15 and 18 hours days, but he gave 20% of his time based on an 8-hour day. This didn't measure up. And when you're starting a new business, labor is the most expensive thing. So if you go into business partnership, you have to be on track that both of you will be spending more time than you would actually get paid for on the job. So next time around, this is something, if I have a business partner again, that I will be paying very close attention to. And so I hope you do too, if you decide to invest your project and make your dream come true with someone else.
Annalisa, how did you deal with cash flow and planning?
Maria, I made so many mistakes. So obviously in the business plan, we talked about the necessary cash that it would take to build our bakery and cooking school, and we focused on that. We began our build, and let me tell you that anytime you're going to redo an apartment, a house, or a business, you do have to calculate for possible overspending. Because I put my business partner in charge, because it was a money matter, I lost a little bit of control over his decision making, and we did go a bit over budget. The way the budget was rectified and saved was that we had to make cuts for other things that didn't seem important to him, but were really important on the day-to-day operations for me. So in order to save, this is an example, some part of the budgeting, he decided that it would not be necessary to get a commercial dishwasher. What did this mean? This meant that we spent a lot of time hand washing, and this took a lot of energy from me and my staff, and eventually was costly because my staff had to stay extra time to get this task done. So was it the right decision? Definitely not. Really do not compromise on the things that are pivotal in your business. You can change a tile, but perhaps not the dishwasher. So that's one thing that happened. The other thing that happened is I let my enthusiasm grow my business way too fast. Once I started doing my cooking classes and I was selling my bread, the locals in the area who did not have a good Italian restaurant relied on me and came to me daily asking me to open the location as a restaurant. Now, we were already a bakery, so I was opening at 3 a.m. and I was mostly still baking, and I was also mostly doing all the cooking classes. So my staff was doing the sales and prepping the bread. What did I do? I said, of course we'll open a restaurant for you, because I thought I was getting to know my customer and giving my customer what they wanted. What this did was that we went off our business plan, and it completely messed up our cash flow. And I'll explain to you. We opened the restaurant within 2 weeks. I did a menu. I thought I was being careful. I did it with my knowledge of the catering, but it's not the same. So I didn't put enough research into the menu. Regardless, we did the menu, we opened, and the restaurant was pumping. The atmosphere was magic. We felt so excited. What we hadn't calculated was every time we kept accepting more people at the restaurant, we needed more cutlery, we needed more plates, we needed our suppliers to give us more credit to be able to buy the food that we needed to cook for the following week. So all the excitement were hiding the actual issues that were happening in the cash flow. So it felt like there was so much cash coming in, but we weren't used to how much cash had to go back out. So before we were able to realize it, we didn't realize that full restaurant and hustle and bustle doesn't mean that you have a full cash flow. And without cash flow, my friends, you can't do very much. And then you have a problem with credit. So I eventually had to pivot, and we had to shut the part of the restaurant and only have it open for special occasions on weekends. I learned my lesson a very hard way, and it also interfered with my health and the health of my staff. Never underestimate that to do things properly, you need enthusiasm, but take your time to really calculate things and make sure you do not underestimate the importance of your health while you're doing it.
Annalisa, and what about the location? How did you choose it, and how did you choose your staff?
The decisions of staff and location are two of the most important things that you'll have to deal with. There's so many, but they are truly important. And some of the mistakes you might make along the way, you might have to deal with for a very long time. When I had to find my location, I had allocated a certain amount of budget. And we eventually went to see a place, and my business partner, who had had many restaurants, was very enthusiastic. So I kind of listened to his enthusiasm, and we just went with it. We signed 3 leases that did not go through. This was the 4th. So I'd been waiting almost 8 months to open my place. So I was very eager to get going. So we found the place. The space was incredible. It was even too big. I thought that we could only renovate a part of it, not to spend so much, but we went ahead and did the whole thing. Now, I did not stake out the place. This means I did not spend every day of the week outside the place to determine whether you could park near my location. Would people walk 5 whole minutes for a loaf of bread? No. So there was not good parking. You couldn't park until after 11 o'clock in the morning. Also, there was not a lot of foot traffic because there weren't a lot of other places, a lot of other food places. So I found myself with a very difficult location. Not only, but it was a hardware store. It was not a food location. So going in and starting a food location meant that I had to reestablish and rebrand the place completely. If you open a restaurant and you take over a restaurant, the patrons that followed that restaurant before will remember that that is a restaurant. In my case, we had none of those things, and it made things very difficult. In hindsight, I would have gone for a smaller place in a more trafficked area, and I would have taken more time to find it, even if it cost me waiting another year, because that was very hard to deal with. This had an influence on the kind of staff I could hire because I was in a more isolated area, and a lot of staff, wait staff and cashiers, aren't going to travel very far. Many young people that work this business don't have cars. So I was limited to where I could go to find my staff, and I had to make a lot of compromises. I had some very good staff and I had some very mediocre staff. What I do know is when you're picking your staff, don't go so much for who makes you laugh more. Make sure they actually have some skills. If not, you will find yourself constantly training these people. Retaining your staff is one of the most important things you will do. If you have the opportunity to retain your staff once you're happy with them, create incentives. Take them out on experiences and create a team building experience for them outside of the restaurant. Pay them more if necessary and budget in for that, because constantly moving staff in a restaurant or a bakery or a cooking school or any business is very time consuming. So the better staff retention you have and the better location you have, the better you will do altogether.
How is your business changed, and would you do it all again?
In the past year or so, my business has changed so much. My business had to take a massive pivot. And the most important thing when you are doing business is that you need to be flexible. You have to maintain flexibility if you want to stay in the game. For unforeseen reasons, after 14 years in Australia, I had to decide to close my cooking school and restaurant because I had to come back to Italy. So I came back to Florence, and in the time when I had to close my business and sell parts of my business and some of my recipes in order to have some continuity, which was very sad for me, in order to continue, I had to pull back and find a way to go forward. The way I did this was pumping my tours again. Finally, I knew that I would be in Florence and I could do more than two to three tours a year. I would be here and I could organize many more. So I did. I organized 8 tours in 1 year. I came back, I sold my home in Sydney. I moved back with my 2 children who still don't speak a lot of Italian. I changed my entire life and I prepared for a new beginning. When you start, you never start from scratch. You bring everything you've done with you. So never, ever give up doing things, trying new things, and building. It all helps to be who you're gonna become. I came back, I did my last tour on February 23rd. Within a week after that, we were shut down for coronavirus. I had to relinquish all of my work, and every tour for the year was canceled. I came from having a place of my own. I came from living in a different country to a new country. I changed my job, and then I found myself with very little work. So what did I do? I continued to be resilient and to find new things. I'm a coach, I'm a counselor, I'm an entrepreneur. I will never stop no matter what happens because it's within me. So now I'm doing this. I'm talking about my business. I'm building new tours. I'm waiting for that to open again. And in the meantime, I'm coaching again. I'm counseling and I'm public speaking. Ciao from Firenze. Ciao from Annalisa. Grazie Maria.